Welcome all to the Navigating New Frontiers Space Tech Catalyst Prize with a NASA speaker panel today. First, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for this webinar, learn more about the Space Tech Catalyst Prize, and also hopefully garner some useful insights for pursuing NASA funding opportunities, garnering best practices, tips, and techniques for pursuing NASA funding opportunities. We are joined by an esteemed panel here, but we will also be kicking off this webinar looking at some background on ESIP. We'll look at the actual competition as it relates to key details such as when to register, when to submit, and what the technical requirements are for submitting into the Space Tech Catalyst Prize. And then we will spend most of the time doing a panel discussion looking at different, like I mentioned, best practices and other useful resources for pursuing NASA funding opportunities. We do also want to take the time at the end to have an open Q&A. There is a Q&A panel that you should be able to access, and feel free to drop questions in throughout the webinar. And then at the end, we'll start to process those questions and then again, kind of provide those to the panel so that we can hear their point of view. To begin, I'd like to pass it over to Dina Lambert, who can give us some background on ESIP.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I am Dina Lambert, the Inclusive Innovation Lead for Early Stage Innovation and Partnerships. We like our acronym, so as you hear us talk, you may hear me say ESIP or STMD, which is the agency's Space Technology Mission Directorate. So essentially, we like to think of ourselves as the widest point in a funnel for our research pipeline. And the work that we do provides investment into technologies that we need fulfilled in order to create and launch our future missions. Essentially, we like to call ourselves the front door. How about we go to the next slide? So we have a saying that 1 + 1 = 5. We know that doesn't happen mathematically, but as a program, we do have at least 5 programs that are under the ESIP umbrella, each of them being unique in the communities that they serve. For instance, for many of you who are in the academic community, you may be interested in our Space Technology Research Grant. Some of you who are entrepreneurs may have heard about the SBIR program, which is for small businesses. We do also have a program that looks further ahead, which is our NASA Innovative Advanced Concepts, which looks at 20, 30 years down the line for concepts that will fulfill our missions in that time frame. And then we have a platform called Prizes, Challenges, and Crowdsourcing, where basically anyone can help us solve some of our technical challenges. And finally, we do have a component called Tech Transfer, and that's where us as an agency, we develop technology that is used along with the investments that we make outside of NASA for future missions. We provide licenses for those patents to be used in commercializations. So again, we do have a broad portfolio of opportunities. As you can see, our portfolio funds almost $350 million in investments all over the country. And that's what we're here to do today, is to ensure that everyone who is interested and has concepts and ideas that could help advance the aerospace community, would like to invite you to be a part of that. So next slide. The main way that we do business, and sometimes I know working with the government can be quite complicated, and that's one of the goals that we have with this effort, is to try to communicate clearly how you can position yourself to work with us. But for a lot of the work that we do comes in the forms of contracts, mainly in our SBIR program, grants, which is a bundle of funds that we provide to an entity to further research in an area. We do have the challenges component as well as the internal research and development. So again, lots of different ways to jump in, from the least restrictive to the more prescribed component, which is our contracts. Next slide. So I believe Ali is going to go through a little bit of the prize, but before we get into that, I did want to kind of just introduce what the Space Tech Catalyst Prize is. Basically, we are looking to amplify the capability of underrepresented communities who are developing space technology or are interested. They are emerging as leaders, students, small businesses in this field. Essentially, we want to expand our reach into those communities so that we are creating a welcoming environment for everyone. Next slide. We have 4 components to this prize. We do want to recognize the work and the innovation that is being done out locally and regionally. We know that there are mentors, influencers, connectors, advisors that are out there that have proven techniques for really speaking authentically to communities that may experience systematic barriers. We want to learn from you guys and recognize the work you've done and incorporate those into our own practices here at NASA. By that, we're highlighting best practices. And then also we want to enhance our outreach efforts to communities we have not reached before. Then finally, we want to create a sense of community with the Catalyst winners and their organizations and constituents, because we know from our own research and those that are in the STEM field is that for many communities, developing that sense of belonging, for networking and mentoring is a really crucial factor to their own success as they move along the pipeline. All right, next slide.
Awesome. I can jump in here.
Yep.
So I think it's really important just to call out that the spacetechcatalystprize.org is the primary hub for this competition. So this is where you will register. This is where you will submit your submission, and it should be the primary destination for this competition. It offers easy access to resources, tools to help guide you through entering this competition and just learning about some of the other aspects of this prize, including the convening event, which I'll speak to in a bit. But the most important deadline coming up is February 22nd, which is when the competition entries are all due. Before that, on February 8th, is the registration deadline. So we ask that if you are interested in participating in this prize, that you register by February 8th. And then after that point, you will be all clear to submit a competition entry. So there are form fields that you will complete. You can save your submission as you go through it, and then you will receive a kind of dynamic link that will reopen your submission form if you do not complete it in one session. But I would take a look at that competition entry form after you've registered. But like I mentioned, the most important things are register by February 8th. We'll have another kind of reminder later in the webinar on that. And then that most crucial of deadlines is the competition entry on February 22nd, and to get your submissions in by that time. So just to kind of go over the overall prize structure. So this is a kind of well-distributed prize in the sense that there's not really a first, second, or third place. We are awarding up to 20 awardees who will receive each $25,000. And this is a recognition prize. This is recognizing the capacity building or other innovative techniques that you have already, you or your kind of mentor have already achieved to build the capacity for underrepresented space technologists or space tech researchers. So like I said, this is the blanket prize. Everyone who wins an award will win $25,000. And then they will also be invited to a convening event at Goddard Space Flight Center. So this is going to be held on April 17th. So this is about a month after the awards will be decided. So you'll have about a month or a little bit more to help plan your travel. And we will also be, not only will you get a prize award, but we want to make it very accessible to join this important collaborative convening event. So winners will also receive a travel stipend. So you'll get the $25,000, but you'll also get an additional stipend that will heavily subsidize, if not pay for your entire travel. This will include estimates for flight and hotel and also transportation to and from. So we will try to deliver a generous stipend that will, like I mentioned, heavily subsidize, if not outright pay for all of your convening event travel costs, because we do really want to make this an important collaborative community that can continue to grow and, pursue these important funding opportunities and be successful. And part of this is that community building. So that's why this convening event, we're really excited about it. And it's going to be it's just going to be an awesome collaborative event. And we're going to invite all winners and judges to join this event so that we can kind of celebrate the work that's already been done and lay a path forward for the next few years. I'm going to keep going to the next slide here. Yeah, so we can jump into our panel discussion. I can kind of briefly hand it over to each of our panelists to introduce themselves, and then we will dive into the discussion. But John, do you want to lead us off and just kind of give us quick bio on yourself, and then we can pass it to Gynelle and Maggie.
Sure. So welcome to the webinar. I'm John Dankanich. I'm the Chief Technologist at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center, and I also serve as the Capability Lead for In-Space Transportation for the agency. So welcome to the webinar.
Great, Gynelle.
Thank you. Gynelle Steele, I'm the Deputy Program Executive for the SBIR and STTR program. Again, welcome everyone. Looking forward to hearing and seeing some of the work that will come out of this catalyst. I think this is a great opportunity as our program in particular has been working to try to increase that pipeline of underrepresented small businesses, including women-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, as well as research institutes into our program. So looking forward to working with the cohort once it is established.
Wonderful.
And hi, I'll jump in. Maggie Yancey. I work across the Science Mission Directorate and the Space Technology Mission Directorate to find different ways in which our innovators and scientists and technologists can create pathways through some of our inclusive initiatives. Pleasure to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you all to our panelists for joining us. So we're just going to get started. We have a set of questions to help guide this. And, as the conversation evolves, we will basically try to answer a decent amount of questions and then have just really productive and fruitful conversation. So just to get things started, tell us, what are some of the best ways to get started pursuing NASA funding opportunities? Where should folks look? Where should they think about right fit? Please take it away.
Well, I'll jump in here real quick. Just to kind of plug, one of the best ways to start to understand how to pursue funding opportunities is to understand what types of funding opportunities are available. So that can be like this prize, which is a different type of funding. It's a different type of funding of money in terms of, most funding goes through grants or research. This has a really special thing called prize authority. And prize authority is particularly neat because it doesn't sometimes come with some of the extra burdens and bureaucracy that sometimes other forms of funding may come in. And so a lot of it's, a little bit of the Goldilocks situation in terms of making sure you have the right fit for the time in which you're, on your journey. If you're an innovator and or what, you have time to deal with, managing a grant, or you have the right staff available to you. And so a lot of that is just kind of also kind of aligning yourself with the right type of funding. And so that's step number one from my perspective, and just something I would throw out there to the group. And I know Gynelle and John both know quite a bit about this.
Yeah, I think that's great because as Dina was talking about, there are different paths. There's the contracts, there's the grants, and there are prizes. The other way, and I love our program, the SBIR program, because I think it really is a nice overview of all the things that the agency is looking at in all of our mission directorates. So you can go to our solicitation, our past solicitations, and look at some of the different technology areas that the agency is looking at. And you'll find those same types of needs explained in other early stage ESIP programs. So, we bleed over needs from SBIR to what STRG is looking for, to what the NIAC program is also considering. So those are opportunities, technology-based opportunities that really outline some of the funding opportunities. Again, the difference being is that some of them have different different mechanisms in which they provide those awards, be it a contract, a grant, or a prize.
Yeah, I guess so I'll add, before I was a NASA civil servant, I actually had my own small business, and I wanted to work with NASA. And this was at a time when there really weren't a lot of challenges and prizes. Probably one of the most useful tools for me was NSPIRES, which is the website nspires.nasaprs.com. There's a solicitation link on that page where you can search and look up current opportunities. You can also look at the old solicitations and kind of see which ones are annual and consistent so that you can be prepared for those new opportunities. And as Gynelle mentioned, sbir.nasa.gov is another great resource of information for those that are new to the SBIR program. The old solicitation subtopic write-ups kind of give you a taste of the things that NASA is concerned about, and you can read the abstracts of the work that was funded in the past. And this gives you insight into the approaches that NASA has already pursued, and also what they're pursuing today. Another thing I love about NASA solicitations is that it's kind of like an old textbook where the answers are in the back. The solicitations in general will have the scoring criteria listed right there in the back of the solicitation, so you know exactly how to maximize your chance of winning. Once you know the area you want to pursue, NASA has a lot of public information available on their investment priorities and the gaps that they need to close. You can go to the NASA Strategic Framework for technology priority needs, or read the decadal surveys for science priority needs, and so on. And you never need to guess what NASA is going to prioritize for funding.
Wonderful, thanks for that. Any other key ways? So some of the things I'm hearing, for example, is going to the SBIR.NASA or website to identify topic areas or technology areas, and also looking at last year's to kind of get a sense of what might be coming in the next round of SBIR topics.
Yeah, and I think John was right. In the NSPIRES website does have a lot of the listing of the past solicitations as well. And so doing that homework, it's not necessarily, we can be a challenging place to understand. So jumping in first, when you are ready to submit might not be the best way to do it. It's probably better to give yourself some time to do some of the homework and understand some of the past ways that folks have proposed and all of that to really understand what NASA's asking for, because even the solicitations are a microcosm of the bigger problem. And so we do offer opportunities to talk to subject matter experts and get to understand what some of those bigger problems are.
I did want to jump in. One great resource that we do have online in doing some of that homework that Gynelle and John had mentioned is a website called TechPort, TECHPORT.nasa.gov. And what you can do there is you can see our strategic framework and the technical gaps that we're looking to fill. as well as where we have made investments in the past. So you can see by state where we have made those investments, and I think also you can see the organizations. So if there is someone in, let's say, Missouri, where you see a university has picked up some research funding, and if you are a resident of that state, you may want to reach out to them and say, hey, what was it like? How was it applying? That's a great way, again, to do some of that reconnaissance first.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. So let's say that they have done some of this reconnaissance and have identified potential, you know, a SBIR phase 1 or something like to, or a grant on NSPIRES. What resources are there to assist others with the grant proposal writing development process? And do you have any tips to help individuals navigate that kind of first, let's say, SBIR phase 1 application or something similar where it's, you know, it's their first time pursuing kind of one of these technical grant opportunities or prize challenges or the like?
Sure. So I'll jump in first. You know, I'm a little biased here because I teach a class on how to write NASA proposals through the L-Space Academy as a cooperative agreement with Arizona State University. That class is limited to NASA contractors, and the academic community, so students and professors. It's been a very successful course as it's a full semester opportunity to dive into the NASA strategic planning documents. Again, those decadal surveys from SMD, the STMD framework and envision future priorities, which Dana mentioned was at techport.nasa.gov. Also our Moon to Mars technology challenges and so on. And it kind of walks people through the process of writing a quality responsive proposal that addresses explicit gaps and gains insight in the proposal evaluation process. Alumni have gone on to be very successful in competitive opportunities. But what's nice is that many of the key lessons, they don't require a fully immersive experience. The tips are really just to understand the pain points that you're trying to address, be able to communicate why your solution is unique and quantifiably better than alternative approaches. And then you tailor your submission in your proposal to address the scoring criteria. And of course, you need to familiarize yourself with whatever submission site that's going to be used. So like we've talked about NSPIRES in the past, so that you're not doing anything last minute and you're not surprised in what it takes to make a winning submission. Other things that I do to assist proposers is during the open period prior to solicitations, people can reach out to me directly and I can put them in contact with subject matter experts at NASA, and they can have an honest and open conversations on our challenges and needs. And while we don't and can't tell people what to propose, right, that's up to the innovator to offer, we don't want anybody guessing what it is that we fundamentally need. So how to close the gap is up to the proposer, but clearly understanding what the gap even is a conversation that we encourage the community to have with us, have that dialogue before the solicitation comes out. That's why there's even a feedback link on our strategic framework presentations for opportunities for that clarification.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
just jump in and kind of underline a few of John's points about like, but really kind of the rinse and repeat portion of those things. There's so much of, you know, continuing the cycle because it really is a continuous cycle and you learn from doing in this particular journey. And, you know, to underline, you know, in terms of like once a proposer proposes, one of the most valuable things that they can learn is actually from those reviewer comments. So that they can see from others' perspectives, and they can also, you know, get folks that have really high, you know, levels of subject matter expertise, or that might be the ones, you know, ultimately funding this stuff, you know, be the ones providing those comments. So any ways that you can get that feedback, I think can only help, you know, further along these innovators out there. And then, you know, in terms of like the rinse and repeat of reconnaissance, there's always be learning because timing and things change in this, you know, new space industry so quickly that we have new needs emerge every day with every new company that comes out of the hopper. So it's a continuous process, and one, you know, don't think of like one not accepted proposal as the end. It's only the beginning, and to keep on keeping on.
Mm-hmm. One thing I did want to add, this is great information. One thing that we find with some of our proposers is they actually served previously as reviewers. So as Maggie said, that, really being able to take in that feedback as constructive and insightful. But if you're able to be a part of the process of reviewing proposals, maybe even before you submit your own proposal, that is a great opportunity to learn. So we do have on SMD side a website that they use for recruiting reviewers. We are starting to stand that up on our side, but you will probably find out in professional organizations announcements for opportunities to serve as reviewers. So again, that could be an incremental step on your way to submitting a successful proposal.
Excellent. Anything else for tips?
Nothing additional to add. Again, our process, our SBIR process does provide a debrief of all the proposals afterwards. And so we recommend that you take that seriously, understand what some of the technical flaws might have been in the proposal that you provided. And in a lot of cases, the proposal was great, but we just didn't have the appropriate funding. So all the feedback you can get from the processes that you go through is always great to enhance your chance either the first time or the third time or the fifth time that you might propose.
Absolutely. What are some of the most common challenges faced by these new innovators in the space tech sector, and how might one overcome some of these challenges? Common kind of barriers or blockers or mistakes that folks make, and how might they mitigate those?
Well, in particularly with our program, it is assumed, and because we are one of several agencies that have an SBIR and STTR program, it's assumed that you know exactly how to propose. And really, our proposal processes are different. So one of the ways that we ask folks we take a lot of time in putting accurate and up-to-date information in our solicitation front end. And while it might be lengthy to read, it is a lot of information that really helps you understand how to structure your proposal. Some of the biggest mistakes are just structural, errors that folks make, having too many pages in the proposal, or not meeting the deadline, or not having certain sections in there. So really paying attention to that upfront direction provided on how to submit and what to include in your proposal is just beyond, addressing the innovation. It's just making sure that the content of your proposal is successfully provided.
Read the instructions. Follow the instructions. Others?
One thing that I would say for new innovators, yes, we want you to do your due diligence and looking at the solicitation, looking at the requirements. But what we find is that a lot of people may opt out even before even beginning the process. And so what we would say is have a conversation, reach out to us prior to solicitation starting. And I would say to help build your confidence to go in and say, yes, I do have a concept, an idea, an approach that may be really valuable. In ESIP, we have two types of kind of solicitations. One that is topic specific. So let's say in STRG, which is for our academic realm, as well as SBIR. Those are usually topic specific. So they will tell you the technical gap specifically that they are looking for people to propose to. The other is NIAC, which is very open. You get an opportunity to show us what you would like to propose and how it relates to a future mission. So that's something that provides a wide range for folks coming in. It could range a lot of different realms of remote sensing, extreme environments, medical, a lot of different areas. So that one's a great program to really consider. But the bottom line is having a story to tell and to tell it well through your proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other insights here on common challenges? And if not, we can jump to the next question. All right, let's look to question 4. So how do you support innovators in the process of commercializing space technology? Strategies or approaches that you found to be successful in making these programs resonate? You know, usually that kind of dual use or kind of commercialization aspect is important for SBIRs, and perhaps something that, you know, new proposers might not fully understand is the kind of commercialization aspect, which is an important aspect, I believe, in SBIRs. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So, I'll say as the chief technologist at Marshall, I work really closely with our tech transfer office, and we have a wide range of tools for innovators within the government or innovations that we uncover with our commercial partners, especially if they have at least one government employee. If it's an entirely external innovation, then we really focus on helping to communicate the innovations and making connections. Every NASA center has a chief technologist. And so, we have an extensive network of stakeholders that includes industry, government, and internal programs and projects that have technology needs and gaps. And so when somebody has a solution to a gap, we can help develop those relationships. And now, while I'll ask you to be patient, I do encourage people to reach out to the chief technologist directly, the ones that are best aligned with your area of work. Helping the community achieve success really helps us all. Just last week, we helped a small business working in technology for the Army make some connections at Marshall and the Propulsion Group, and also at JPL to meet some of their mission needs. And that's just one of the things that we're here to provide. Of course, what I found most successful for commercialization is when the innovator is fundamentally developing a technology that addresses a major pain point. If the pain point and applications are known, then when you have the solution, those that need it are often welcoming and open to new partnerships. It's when you can't clearly communicate that a technology solves an explicit problem is when we struggle the most with commercialization.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, please.
I was going to echo a few things that John was mentioning. I think every innovator's goal, like to see their science or technology out there in the world, is what really fills our cup up, in terms of making sure that like we're going to, having fulfillment and, having humanity benefit from the science that we're doing. And we have some incredibly ambitious goals at NASA. We are planning on going to the moon and Mars. And to do that, we need a lot of innovators to come to the table and bring their best stuff. So to that end, we're offering Innovation Corps, which is a part of the NSF, the National Science Foundation's program that's across the country to help innovators learn those skills too of commercialization and how to talk to customers and that sort of thing. We totally understand that most innovators are incredibly in line with their deep science or technologies. However, business skills and other types of things is actually kind of new to them. And sometimes it can be a little scary and uncertain navigating those types of waters. And so Innovation Corps, which is a program that we're offering that offers up to $10K to support time, effort, travel, and then another $40K if they go on to beyond the short course to the national course, allows them to really kind of get outside that comfort zone and talk to potential customers. And there's so many new space companies that are emerging, so many others beyond NASA that aren't just the buyer anymore, that can really kind of help provide insight into what are those needs and where their science or technology might really lift off and, have a place out there in the world.
And to add to that, specific to our program, if you are a phase 2 winner, either of the SBIR or the STTR program, we have really 3 different vehicles that we offer that allow you to further that technology beyond phase 2 in order to really respond to a particular industry pool or a pull from another government agency or one within NASA. They're called our phase 2Es, and you can get all of these at our sbir.nasa.gov website. And the tab at the top will say about us, and it has post phase 2 initiatives on it. But just to give you a quick snapshot, the phase 2Es are looking to try to develop a pathway to increase that phase 2 that you're working on by offering a 1-to-1 match. So if you get at least 25K being offered by an external entity, we will match that up to a maximum of 375K, and we'll extend that phase 2 for 6 to 12 months to allow that work to get done. We also have a bigger initiative called CCRPP. Like Dina said, we love our acronyms. It's the commercialization, civil commercialization readiness pilot program. And that allows us to go all the way up to 500K with a 1-to-1 match. Starting at 500K, but maximizing at 2.5 million of a 1-to-1 match. And that's to extend your phase 2 for 24 months. And these are those things that we know really have a great impact and are, need to have an immediate pull. And then the last one is called a sequential phase 2. And that is based on particular NASA focused technology needs that we know have a pull within NASA primarily. And so we will give you, just like it's called, a sequential phase 2. So another phase 2 worth 850K, I think those are worth up to 2 million that will allow you to develop that work. And that doesn't require a matching, but it is going to be focused in on particular technologies that we have at NASA that we need to address. And so those are the ways that we put our skin in the game to really try to help commercialization when you have gone through our program and gotten a phase 2.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention is that we do have some opportunities that you would probably consider like a capacity building or planning kind of on-ramp. One way of finding out that information is definitely going to our STMD website and looking at upcoming solicitations. Another thing is if you're connected with an MSI or HBCU, connecting with your MIRAP office. In the next couple of weeks, actually, Gynelle and I were working on this today of a program that NASA developed called M-Plan, which provides an award for PIs who are interested in some mentoring in order to be ready and prepared for upcoming solicitations within the next 6 to 12 months. So that is going to be dropping pretty soon. I would say look for a lot of announcements through LinkedIn and on websites. And that's part of what we're doing with this prize, is to build a community of catalysts and connectors who can help us spread the word. So that is something that if you yourself are not necessarily a researcher, but you are connected to those who are doing deep research, deep tech research, for instance, then that is a great use and a value to us as an organization. Finally, NASA is one government partner in the field of technology. So of course we have SBA for small businesses, but another one is also the Economic Development Agency, who are standing up these technology hubs. That's where at a more local and regional level, certain regions have certain technical capabilities that they are focusing in on. Some are medicine. There will be one on aerospace. So definitely look up those and see where you may be able to find some more local and regional contacts who may be able to partner with you in the future. And then finally, the Office of Small Business Programs does offer a mentor protege program. And again, those are the mentors are existing NASA contractors who have been successful with us as prime contractors for a while, and they are willing to offer up mentoring or engagement with those small businesses who are interested in doing business with us.
Wonderful. A lot of really good resources. I do want to let everyone know that we will follow up and try to get a resources list sent to everyone so that you are able to kind of take next steps on some of these programs. Is the really quickly, just for my own curiosity, iCore, the Innovation Core offering, which I've actually gone through and was amazing. After doing some work with a SBIR phase 1, is the iCore only available to those who've won a SBIR phase 1, or are there other ways to kind of access the Innovation Core or iCore program? And again, for like new folks, entering the iCore program is amazing and definitely something you should take a look at, run by NSF. But
Yeah,
Maggie,
so there's
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's 2 different tracks. There's one specifically for academics or nonprofit researchers that has sort of a funding pathway. And then if you have a SBIR or STTR through our NASA program, you can opt in to participate with iCore as a part of that. And then let's say you don't fit into any of those categories, you can also just contact your regional NSF hub and you can hook in via that way. Obviously, if you have NASA relevance and you're a NASA PI or a NASA scientist or technologist at a nonprofit institution, definitely check out the NASA iCore pilot.
Awesome. So this is kind of a larger, kind of more future-oriented question, but where are some of the most promising areas of growth or innovation in space tech in the near future? And how might innovators position themselves to be part of this growth as we look to the next kind of 5-10 years? For cislunar comes to mind, but really curious what the panel's point of view is on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a topic where I could spend sort of days in a
Yeah.
long discussion. But really one thing that I've learned repeatedly is that nobody's really great at predicting which innovations will disrupt the industry. But I do want to sort of emphasize, maybe even yet again, to what you were talking about earlier, Oliver and Maggie, to position yourself to be part of market growth is to really understand the market and what's driving it. And so I am also a really big fan of that iCore program. One needs to understand, is the issue that we might need higher performance, or do we care more about the first minimally acceptable performance solution? Or do we need a step function in cost reduction and we're willing to trade performance or risk just to get in the door? With that said, it is clear there's significant growth and innovation occurring in the fields of advanced manufacturing, in-space manufacturing, autonomous systems, in situ quality control, autonomous and pervasive health monitoring. In fact, autonomy in general, machine learning and data science. And, if you want to be part of that growth, find a niche where you offer a clear and distinct benefit or advantage over what's currently available in the market. If you can quantify and communicate sort of why that matters, which is typically lower life cycle cost to an identified customer or some competitive advantage, then we really pay attention. I had one contractor that was joking with me one day about how the company was struggling to sell their technology improvements when they were selling things that they felt were really nice to have, but they were evolutionary improvements. And then when they came up with the technology that gave their customer a really big competitive advantage, people started to back the trucks up with money, as they like to say. And so again, it's really understanding the market and where you fit in that market, and then quantify why your contributions matter to your customers. That's really the key to be part of that market growth.
Awesome. Other
Yeah, and I'll
thoughts?
just throw into, we have these consortiums that we put together, these body of experts to help talk about these emerging markets, whether it be, the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium, where they're talking about all the areas in which that we can go with lunar. Or there's one called Cosmic, which is all about sort of ISAM and additive manufacturing, et cetera. And so these consortiums are great places to kind of get a pulse on, what folks are talking about in terms of these challenges and areas. If you're not sure exactly, where I kind of talk about hotspots that you might have, hotspots being like places where you feel like you might have that research connection with sort of issues or areas of challenges that NASA's identifying. So it's a really great place to kind of have those hotspots identified, and then learn how to speak from the same language too, because language can sometimes be one of those barriers too, just between different institutions and stuff. And even we're finding within NASA, within this new space market, that a lot of the new space companies are talking about these problems completely different than the way that we're talking about it. So there's just a lot of bridging that has to take place.
And I think Dana had mentioned TechPort. That is where the STMD has done a really good job in identifying some of the areas, a lot of our areas across the agency that we're working in their framework, their strategic framework. They've gotten input from science, input from the Exploration Systems Mission Directorate, and so it is inclusive of all of what NASA is trying to do and where some of those gaps are. And that's open to the public. So TechPort is a really, really good resource to look for, to understand what some of the high interest areas are for NASA right now.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So yeah, we have one more question, then we will move to Q&A from the attendees. But how can new innovators not only benefit from, but also contribute to the broader space tech community and NASA's initiatives? Any thoughts on this? And then we will jump to Q&A.
So I would say definitely, I am definitely a empathic when it comes to really wanting to get to know people and hearing their story. And part of what I would say is that appreciate the journey that you are on as a new innovator, and knowing that your journey to becoming an entrepreneur or a researcher may look very different than someone else. It does not discount it in any way. So I would say that also inviting others to come along. Part of this, what you find in some of our proposals that we see when you look at partners. So let's say with STTR, you look at commercial partners that go alongside universities, or if we are asking for a team of collaborators. Part of those collaborators come up with from conversations, lab visits, conference, happy hour discussions, meaning that there is a sense of benefit that comes from talking with your colleagues, getting in the room where these conversations are happening, where there's someone looking for a partner or a researcher to come along. You may not have to submit a proposal all by yourself, but you may know someone that you can contribute to the overall idea and concept. So that's something I definitely would say of how to contribute is bring others along, recognize the story that you have to tell, and appreciate the journey that you take that may be unique to you, that is still of benefit to NASA.
Absolutely. Any other comments on this before we shift into Q&A with the attendees? All right, let's jump into some of these questions. We've been answering some of them kind of live, but I also want to take a chance to look at some of these questions that we have not answered. So just one moment here. What are your policies on multiple entries, for example, entering as an individual and separately a second entry as part of a team? I will need to go back and look. The key and most important thing here is to read the rules and requirements on the website. That will answer that question. Typically, for challenges, sometimes folks have the idea that if they kind of have multiple entries, that increases their chances. I kind of see that as the opposite, and because if an entry doesn't go kind of deep enough, then it really makes it harder, less likely, I think, to be funded. So I do think one very robust and well thought out application is likely a better strategy than multiple entries. But it's most important is to read the rules and requirements document on our challenge website. So if you go to Space Tech Catalyst, there's a rules page, and that is the most important document to read and understand because that is what we follow when
Yeah.
going through the evaluation process. Dina, thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So what I would say is definitely, as you guys have registered through the website, and as you look at the nomination form, which again, we designed this to not be a heavy lift for people to come in, but what we really want to hear is, how are you as an individual or as an organization connecting to the community that you are connected with? Whether it is students from a particular community or in a rural area, how are you connected to them? How are you addressing their barriers uniquely? And how are you positioning yourself to being able to respond to our technical calls? Now, if you're the person that has 48 hours in a 24-hour day, and you are an individual that is distinctly can answer that form as an individual that is different from what you contribute as a team, definitely go back to the rules. I would say definitely Oliver and the ensemble team are definitely able to dig in deeper if we want to go into that a bit offline. But what we want to hear clearly is, how are you addressing the barriers? What are some of the best practices, and what are some of the wins that you've had in promoting space technology in these communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So another question, how many teams usually enter? Is this competitive? This will be pretty competitive. There certainly will be, you know, it's very hard to predict how many. We have lots of registrants, so yes, it will be competitive. Although, you know, there are 20 prizes, but there certainly will be more than 20 entries.
Yeah, and what I would also say is that this is our first year doing it.
Right.
Because we realized a need that we wanted to make sure that we were welcoming in a diverse pool of innovators and proposers. So this is our first time doing this as a mechanism to broaden our network. So I think what it boils down to is how well you're able to tell your story and communicate your strategy and the impacts that you're making.
Yeah. Another next question, do remote sensing techniques, in particular remote sensing of Earth, qualify as part of the eligible categories? So I think the answer is yes, but again, if you go to the challenge website and go through the registration, as you're registering, you will have a list of about 18 technology categories that ESIP is funding through, I think it's like the STAR mechanism, or
Yep.
the land explorer. Dina, you can speak to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We have 18, I think it's 18 technical areas that you'll find that kind of tie back to kind of where you'll see solicitations pull from. You may have that remote sensing as a technical kind of background, but you also have a passion area where you're trying to connect students in those areas, or those small businesses in those areas. Then yeah, that's definitely fine. And then we do have a segment for, I think there was other in there, if you didn't feel like you fit into any of those 18, but we do ask that you describe how you are connected to a capability that NASA would be looking for.
Great. So yes, read that framework and then use the website and the registration link to that list of technologies and then which one best fits. And I think remote sensing likely fits within those kind of array of technical categories. Are there any programs to support applicants with neurodivergence or learning disabilities, specialized accelerators / support? Good question. I'm not sure. Dina or panel?
Okay. All right. Say that one more time.
Are there any programs to support applicants with neurodivergence / learning disabilities? Any specialized accelerators or support?
Huh. That is an interesting question. So what I would say is we are doing internally we have an outward facing strategy, which this Catalyst Prize is one of those, but we also have an internal one. So we are working on some things that would provide inclusive language to be incorporated into our solicitations, a bit more adaptability when it comes to how you view our solicitation information. All of that is in pre-development work, so that it has not officially rolled out yet. What I would say, for any opportunity that you do see that you are curious about and you want to apply to, please contact the designated individual on that solicitation. I myself was the disability program manager at Goddard Space Flight Center for a number of years, and I often would support technical organizations who are bringing in, whether it is interns, students, fellows, to make sure that we accommodated those individuals properly and that they had an opportunity to compete well there. What I would say, there is some work being done for small businesses that are headed by individuals with disabilities. I think there is going to be some extra support being put in place by SBA within the next year. So those are some of the kind of basic steps, but I think you kind of got me stumped.
Yep. And so we are at about 2 minutes left. So we will be ending in about 2 minutes, just as a reminder. We will also be sharing out a recording of this. Usually we post this to YouTube, so if you want to share this with a colleague. And we will also make a concerted effort to compile the list of links and resources that have been mentioned, so that we can also share that with you, because I know there was a lot of useful resources that we were discussing. So I think we probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions before we close out. I do see one good call out, which was that the other option is not coming up on the actual drop down in the submission form. So thank you for calling that out. Yes, that is something we can explore to make sure that there is an other option that is in there. So thank you for calling that out. We will note that and aim to roll that out if that is not the case. So I'm just going to kind of jump through 1 or 2 more. Will it be a problem with English if I'm not native with the language? The key is communicating via your proposal, and so, you know, there are certainly folks who I think are English is their second language, but the key is your ability to write out and, you know, a technically compliant proposal.
Yeah, and also I would say with that, we did ask submissions to include a 2-minute video. We do recognize that sometimes people may communicate better through video versus through text. So that is also an alternative means of submitting.
Should we join as a team, or can I join by myself? So again, this is a challenge, recognizing capacity builders and catalysts who are working with underserved audiences. So if that is who you are and you want to be recognized for that, then that is something that you yourself would apply for. If you're kind of part of a team that is supporting activities that are doing capacity building for underrepresented researchers and technologists, it could be either. But the key is that you fit into that category of, I am a shepherd, I am a catalyst, I'm a capacity builder for those underrepresented audiences who are building their space technology capabilities. So we are at time. I want to thank the panel very much for taking the time to chat with us and share all these valuable insights. Thank you to all the attendees for taking the time to join us in this important prize competition webinar. And just to call out that the deadline incoming is February 8th. That is the deadline and the cutoff point for registrations. So if you do not register by that point, you will be ineligible to actually submit after on the 22nd. So the most important thing is for participating in this competition is to register for that on the website. and complete that by February 8th, and then get your submission ready for February 22nd. And with that, we will close out today's webinar. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.